Okay, let's learn about gravity, called Newton's law of gravity, or Newton's universal law of gravitation. Here's the equation. As usual, laws are often, almost always, an equation. But before we proceed, let's pause for a few minutes and look at the historical, cultural context of what we're going to learn, noting that science is a human construct and a human story. Here are 13 people, 13 faces of science spread out over a large swath of history. Question number 1. Pause the video and identify Newton, and then come back. Okay, you've identified Newton. Now pause the video again and identify as many of the 13 people, 13 scientists, as you are able to identify, and then come back. Okay, let's see how you did. For your information, I was able to identify 4 with 1 question mark. Let's go through all 13. First, Sir Isaac Newton, English mathematician, physicist, astronomer, and theologian, 1643 to 1727. Albert Einstein, 1879, 1955. Galileo Galilei, Italian astronomer, physicist, and engineer, 1564 to 1642. He died the same time Newton was born. Much of Newton's work was based on Galileo's work. Marie Sklodowska-Curie, Polish physicist and chemist, 1867 to 1934. Working with her husband, Pierre Curie, Marie Curie discovered polonium and radium in 1898. In 1903, they won a Nobel Prize for physics for discovering radioactivity. In 1911, she won a Nobel Prize for chemistry for isolating pure radium. Those were the only 4 I could identify. The 5th person that I wasn't certain about, George Washington Carver, 1864 to 1943, an American agricultural scientist and inventor. The rest that I didn't know, Alice August Ball, 1892 to 1916. An American chemist who developed the Ball method, the most effective treatment for leprosy during the early 20th century. Janaki Ammal, Indian botanist, 1897 to 1904. She worked on cytogenics and a range of plant breeding. Well, it seems these people are all much later than Newton, and not surprising, because if we have a photograph, then it means that they lived after the time of photography, mid-1800s, I think. So even Newton and Galileo are paintings. Let's look at some of the older folks from further back in history. Zhu Zhongzi, 420 CE to 500 CE. Okay, that's more than 1,000 years before Newton. Chinese astronomer, mathematician, politician, and inventor. He calculated pi to 7 digits 800 years before anyone else was able to do more digits than that. Al-Hazan, or in Arabic, which I'm not going to be able to say, Ibn al-Haytham, 965 to 1040 CE, a Muslim Arab mathematician, astronomer, and physicist. Made significant contributions to the principles of optics and visual perception. 600 years before Newton. Bhaskara Charya, 1114 to 1185, an Indian mathematician and astronomer. Bhaskara was the first to discover gravity 500 years before Sir Isaac Newton. He was the champion among mathematicians of ancient and medieval India. The oldest of all, Hypatia, 355 to 415, Alexandria, mathematician, astronomer, and philosopher who lived in a very turbulent era of Alexandria's history. She is the earliest female mathematician of whose life and work reasonably detailed knowledge exists. She was trained as a mathematician by her father and eventually replaced him as the leading mathematician of Alexandria and indeed as the preeminent mathematician of her time. Returning to modern times, Augusta Ada King, Countess of Lovelace, was an English mathematician and writer chiefly known for her work proposing mechanical general-purpose computers. Ada Lovelace has been called the world's first computer programmer. What she did was write the world's first machine algorithm for an early computing machine that existed only on paper. This was in 1840. Finally, Biba Chaudhry, an Indian physicist, 1913 to 1991. She worked on particle physics and cosmic rays. Working at the Bose Institute at the University of Calcutta, she co-discovered the subatomic particle called mesons. They published 3 consecutive articles in Nature. However, their work became interrupted because of World War II. Soon after, C.F. Powell, an English physicist, made the same discovery using similar methods a few years later, for which he was awarded the Nobel Prize. Thus concludes our short, or not so short, examination of the very rich human history of the field of science across a diversity of cultures and genders.